From the Amazonian Stonehenge to the two-mouthed Mapungari, and from the treasures of Legantes to the touring alien, there are several alien discoveries found in the Amazon that frighten even scientists. The Amazon is a vast and interesting place, and it holds a lot of secrets. Although a lot of discoveries have been made in the Amazon, a lot more are left undiscovered, and even more are unexplained. The reality is that, despite its importance to mankind as a whole, few people are familiar with this historic site that was formed 55 million years ago. Let's begin by explaining the meaning of the forest's name. Francisco Orellana, a Spanish adventurer who was ambushed by female fighters known as tapuyas in the jungle, gave it to him. He recognized a strong resemblance between this tribe and the female warriors of Greek mythology, the Amazons, and dubbed the area the Amazon rainforest. It's also an area where individuals have discovered some very weird discoveries, the best of which are featured in our video today. We begin with the alien creature of the Amazon. The Mapinguari. From the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland to the Yeti in Antarctica, every area in the world has a strange beast of mysterious origins that makes cameo appearances to a lucky or unlucky few. And the Amazon is no different. The Amazon's version of this strange beast is known as the Mapinguari. Now, you may not believe in strange beasts or stories like this, but hear us out. According to legend, the Mapinguari was a shaman from Amazonia who found the secret to immortality thousands of years ago. He enraged the gods and was severely punished as a result of his discoveries, which caused him to spend the remainder of his life as a roaming beast. The beast has been described as a huge sloth in recent sightings. Many cryptozoologists believe the Mapinguari is a mylodontid or a megalonychid, two types of Ice Age enormous ground sloths that once roamed the area. The monster is also said to have a foul stench that may render a man unconscious. A humanoid monster with a mouth in the center of its stomach is depicted in tribal images and legends. It has one eye, long claws, caiman skin, backward feet, and a second mouth on its belly, according to legend. An enormous hairy ground sloth, comparable to the South American Megatherium or the North American Megalonyx, has been seen in recent sightings. These species lived with the early Native Americans until they became extinct approximately 10,000 years ago, probably as a result of overhunting. It's probable that the stories of Mapinguari are based on legends about the once mighty animals that had been passed down through the generations. But what do you believe? We imagine that not too many people have survived an encounter with this beast to tell its story. One such example is Colonel P.H. Fawcett, who did extensive work on the Amazon and the Mapinguari. He recorded a lot about his encounter with the Mapinguari, but died mysteriously soon after without a trace. The touring alien. The evidence of aliens has not been proven in its totality, but we think this story might change your mind. From places like Area 51 and the Ural Mountains, certain places are known to be hotspots for alien visitations. But in this story, these aliens visited another popular alien spot in South America, the Amazon. While on vacation in Brazil, two British tourists recorded a video of some children in the Brazilian rainforest with whom they were speaking. While showing the video to some of their friends, they found in the background a light orb that looked somewhat like a wormhole. And behold, not too far from that wormhole was a whole alien. In the video, the alien looks unbothered by the crowd of humans and just walks all willy-nilly. Perhaps he's looking for the Mapinguari, or he's been there before, and as such, is familiar with the geography of the place. The Amazonian Stonehenge. Stonehenge is one of the most visited tourist attractions in England. Since the discovery of Stonehenge, archaeologists, historians, and all forms of experts have tried to decrypt what the structure and location were used for. But from the location and the shape and orderliness of the stones, one can imagine these stones were used for religious purposes by humans thousands of years ago. So you can imagine how delighted archaeologists were when it was discovered that a similar structure existed deep in the Amazon. In western Brazil, more than 450 massive earthworks have been uncovered, exposing the remaining traces of ancient culture's land usage before the Amazon jungle hid them millennia ago. While no one knows for sure what these mystery sites were used for, they show that indigenous communities claimed and transformed the Amazon terrain for hundreds of years before Europeans arrived in the Americas. The geoglyphs, which cover over 13,000 square kilometers, first appeared in the Brazilian state of Acre in the 1980s as rainforest areas were cleared for agricultural purposes. Scientists can determine the historical amount of previous vegetation by analyzing microscopic plant fossils called phytoliths in soil, and charcoal levels can indicate prior land clearance by forest fires. The samples in this example revealed that bamboo had dominated the jungle for at least 6,000 years, but charcoal readings suggest that people arrived in the region approximately 4,000 years ago, at which point palm trees began to sprout in increasing numbers. Between 2,300 and 1,400 years ago, the height of forest fires to clear land occurred, at which time the earliest earthworks are considered to have been built. The trenches that survive now appear to have been excavated during various periods between the 1st and 15th centuries, with ditches as broad as 11 meters and as deep as 4 meters existing. While aerial views may be used to identify the geometry and area of these sites, scholars have never figured out what the site's initial purpose was. Because no large amounts of cultural objects have been discovered at the locations, the landmarks are unlikely to have been villages, and the shape of the indentations also shows that the sites were not created for defensive purposes. Instead, the soil study implies that the places were utilized for ceremonial meetings of some type, and that folks who had resided here only came here on a periodic basis. The Lost Treasure of Legantes. Imagine this scene. You're hiking through the Amazon rainforest, braving snakes, spiders, and all sorts of things, slashing through vines and weeds, and like a scene from an explorer movie, you come across a treasure. It's the treasure of the Legantes, and the movie you think you're in is Jungle Cruise. But what is the lost treasure of Legantes? When the Inca king, Atahualpa, was kidnapped by the Spanish conquistadors, he promised them enough money to fill a room in return for his freedom. Incan General Rumihuahui and his troops hurried to offer a ransom for King Atahualpa, despite being weighed down by hundreds of pounds of gold and jewelry. However, before finishing his task, he discovered that they were too late. The king had already been assassinated by the Spaniards. General Rumihuahui dispatched troops to take the riches to the Legantes' desolate region after learning of his death. He then proceeded to Quito, where he withdrew even more wealth to be hidden from the rest. Rumihuahui refused to betray the location of the treasure despite being kidnapped and tortured by the Spanish, carrying his secret to the grave with him. Despite the deaths lost by both the Incas and the Spanish, the violence had just begun. For generations, the hidden wealth of the Legantes has enthralled and enticed treasure hunters, even leading some to their death. A long and tough journey across muddy marshes and endless moorlands is required to reach the location where the wealth is supposed to be concealed. This is not a voyage for the faint of heart. Regardless, there are accounts of individuals discovering it. Valverde was a Spaniard who married an Incan lady. Her family is said to have shown the riches after the marriage, and Valverde made a map explaining its location before his death. The latest individual to have discovered the gold was Barth Blake. Blake mentions an incredible trove of gold and diamonds he discovered after following Valverde's chart in a letter. On his way back to New York, however, he abruptly vanished. A guy named Mark Honningsbaum was inspired by Blake's letters and set out to retrace Blake's steps, which he documented in his book, Valverde's Gold. He never discovered the treasure, but according to his book, the Incas returned the gold to the site where it was discovered by dumping it into a man-made lake. He believes the wealth has been buried beneath rubble and gone forever as a result of the area's periodic earthquakes. Although wealth has been missing for generations, some claim that if you look closely enough, you may see it. A covering of tiny golden threads fluttering in the breeze may be seen as you look out over the undulating green hills. Allow your gaze to be drawn down to the rushing river. Do you see the little diamonds that glisten and dance on the surface of the water? Even emeralds and jewels may be found gleaming in the tree canopy, bathing the entire forest in a gorgeous shade of green. If you enjoyed this video, you would enjoy this one, where we cover the evidence of how Egyptian pharaohs used wormholes in pyramids to explore space.